Hello and welcome to Sam Gus Tarot and the 31 Days of Tarot. Originally hosted basically by Ethany. She puts out prompts every day for the month of January for fellow enthusiasts of the Tarot and the community to participate. So this year I've chosen to do so. You can follow along with her in her channel, of course. You can also follow the Facebook group. It's the Tarot Readers Academy on Facebook. Yeah, come get to know us. So, and thank you to her for giving some of us lesser known YouTubers an opportunity to participate in the community. So thank you. So anyway, this first day is all about, the prompt is, what did the holidays bring us in terms of tarot? And this year it treated me very, very well. A very dear friend of my wife's and I. My wife also collects and reads tarot as well. Anyway, our friend over in California is getting ready to move over here to Texas with us. And hi, Bonnie. That's Bonnie in the background giving us her blessing. Anyway, she is planning on moving over here in the near future, in the next year or so. And she downsized her considerable tarot collection and ended up passing on a lot of the ones that she decided not to keep for her personal use to us. And my share of the hoard, which is exactly that, it's a hoard, is mind-blowing. Barb is a really good friend. She's also subscribed to my channel, so thank you, Barb. It's a overwhelming Christmas gift. But allow me to show you what I got from my side of stuff. We'll start off with the Merlyn Tarot. This is a theme deck. Obviously, it does kind of rewrite what is known pretty much about the tarot. It uses different suites that I am not familiar with. It does use the major arcana, but a lot of like more suit cards would be like this key card. One can almost really buy. I don't know enough about this deck, but you would almost think this is more of an oracle deck. But the major arcana for sure are very artistic and creative. Very interesting artwork. And I'm just going to show a couple cards off of all the decks I'm going to show you here today. And some of these decks I will do a walkthrough as the year 2020 commences. So that was the Merlyn Tarot. And along with that, thought I had it here, and of course now I don't. I've been doing this all day long, actually, misplacing stuff. The guidebook for this also came along with this deck as well, so if I find it here in my stack, I will of course share it. Anyway, that's the Merlyn Tarot. Following a theme, I also got the Arthurian Tarot. Very similar in concept. It's kind of a new, different approach to tarot altogether with a different system. It comes with a little guidebook here. It's black and white illustrations inside, but a nice little one. And then, of course, the cards themselves. And you got different scenes like some of the suits, such as the stones. There we go. Try to focus on that. There we go. Gotta remember to put this in front of my face sometimes. The spears is another suite. Beautiful artwork. Very kind of Old English and Celtic. Illustrations. Probably instead of cups I got here the Grail, so Grail 6 card. But a very beautiful deck. And again, it's a lot of these decks, as I've already said, will go through a different. Hey, move along. Thank you. Go through a full walkthrough at some point. Hopefully my cat wasn't exposing you right in that right direction. If so, my apologies. Just like any cat, they are a beautiful, independent creature that can be an asshole sometimes. My cat doesn't vary from that. Kind of a newer deck, and compared to some of the ones I'm about to show you anyway. It's called the Celtic Dragon Tarot. And I got this one kind of by default because my wife already had this one's deck, so in her collection, so this automatically came to my collection. And it comes with a nice, sizable book with full page black and white illustration of the major arcana, and yes, actually the minor arcana cards too. Looks like it's got about a page per minor arcana to go over, and for the major arcana, looks like it's got a full page description as well. Beautiful book. I really like my guidebooks. Little white books are always nice, but the major guidebooks are something I'm after and really like. Kind of a sidebar, one of the neater ones out there is from the Mythical Dreamer Tarot. And the guidebook that comes in that particular box is also a journal. So I would encourage you to journal with the deck as well. Very, very unique. Anyway, the Celtic Dragon here is full of dragon and Celtic knotwork and symbology. Pretty much based off of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Come on, focus in. I'm still new to this YouTubing thing, so still learning how to get the right focus on stuff. Come on, focus a little more. There you go. Focus there. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful dragons. So if you like the symbology and symbols of dragons, can't go wrong. There's only a few dragon decks out there, and this is one of the better ones that I've seen, actually. So for those of you new to my channel, I'm a relatively new channel. Just started late last year doing the YouTube thing. And I don't, honestly, I don't do anything that new. I do video and virtual responses to various topics by the community, as well as tarot deck reviews and commentaries on the decks that I have. Sometimes I also go into the history of decks and where they come from and why. So an example would be one I did on the Thoth Tarot review. Also talked about how the Golden Dawn had influenced modern day Tarot, and not just the Thoth deck and some of the Hermetic decks, but also, of course, the Rider-Waite-Smith, of course, itself. The next one's really cute. The Mystical Cats Tarot. Again, with the guidebooks, by now I've been telling you how much I like it. Again, black and white illustrations of each of the cards, and this one seems to kind of tell a story of cats and mystical cats. And there's this one, let me see if I can find it, that actually just cracked me up when I first saw it. Literally laughed out loud, had to show the wife immediately because, for a Trove deck to make me laugh out loud, it's got to tell you something, right? So we have dogs and cats ourselves. Obviously, you saw Bonnie just a moment ago. And this Trove is kind of a Rider-Waite-Smith that tells a story through the eyes of cats and the antics that cats get into. And this one particular one, this one here, has cracked me up. It was called the Five of Sea, so it would be the Cups suite, but it's based on water, I believe. But the poor cat got all wet while it was trying to get something it wanted, i.e. the fish down below. Let's see if this will focus in. But it just cracked me up because, you know, if you've ever seen a wet cat before and how they are not happy about it, especially if they were in the middle of a hunt or something, that's was how that came out. So it's a beautiful deck. One of the couple of things that I really liked about it, other than the theme, was the fact that it's borderless. I do like a good borderless deck. And why I do like titles on the card, I like them to be kind of much like this, kind of not separated from the image, kind of within the image itself. And yeah, it's a very, very pretty deck. I've seen a lot of good reviews and stuff online and in videos about this particular deck, so I am looking forward to actually utilizing this one. My understanding is it's actually a very good reader, so this is one I'll be trying out. And I say that like I'm not going to try out all the tarot decks that I have at some point or another, but this one is on the list to do earlier rather than later. So let's see. This next deck, when I saw it in the box, I literally reached out and went, mine. This is the Mythic Trove. So a little history here. The first deck I ever got was the Thoth Tarot. And the first book I ever got, and this isn't mine, it's actually a friend's copy, is The Complete Guide to the Tarot by Eden Gray. And this was the first tarot book I ever read, and of course it's the Thoth deck, so I was a little confused about what was going on, because I didn't know who Aleister Crowley was, I didn't know who Thoth was, I didn't know the Golden Dawn. I mean, I was like 13 or 14 years old at the time. So I didn't know any of this stuff. But I knew that this was something to do with a thing called a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And so I ended up going and getting a Rider-Waite deck, and that was my second deck. But I bring this out for nostalgia, but the third deck I ever bought myself was the Mythic Trove. Now I haven't had it in years, so when I saw it covered in this cloth in the box, I was like, I knew exactly what it was. I used this deck for so many years, probably almost a decade. And this is a first edition and in excellent condition. Look at that. Look on the back. Still nice and shiny. Doesn't seem to be any nicks or anything on the cards. Maybe a little bit on the sides, you know, for side shuffling and stuff that has happened that will always happen. But for a deck that came out, you know, 25 years ago, almost 30 years ago, this deck is in excellent condition and is an immediate favorite of mine. For those who don't know, and I know there probably isn't many of you, but the Mythic Trove is based off of the Greek myth as the story of the tarot and into the suites and stuff like that, and ties in all the suites to the various mythologies and legends of ancient Greece. And it's, to me, has always been an incredible storyteller. And that's, you know, you have decks that are direct and decks that are funny and decks that are spiritual and decks that expose the darker nature of ourselves, but this deck simply tells you a story. That's all it does. And that story of archetypes and, you know, the power of myth, if you will, is just really that powerful. So it was really quite touching to actually have this deck in there, and even complete with the original reading cloth. I don't know if you can see it in the thing, but there's, you know, the outlines of a Celtic cross here. And yeah, it's a beautiful deck, and Immediate was one of my very favorites coming out of the box. And so, Barb, if you're watching, thank you so much. This almost brought tears to my eyes. What was also cool was in it as a book I could never find back in the day because I tried the Mythic Trove workbook. So this is the actual workbook that you had to buy separately, but it covers all the cards and stuff, and it actually encourages you to have exercise to not just color the cards, but then to kind of journal with it. Excuse me for a moment. As I always jokingly say, this is actually not beer, it's actually just diet soda. So don't think I'm sitting here getting drunk talking to y'all. It doesn't work quite like that. But each page has a card, like here for the 10, and each of these for the minors pretty much do the same thing. What date were you reflecting on this card? Recall experience of your own which fits this image's essence. In this case here, it's the 10 of Cups. And then find your own keyword or phrase for this card. So this was one of those decks that when it came out and the workbook came out, encouraged you to explore the tarot deeper and start journaling. And I'm sure tarot journaling existed before then, before this. But this was one of those books that actually started, and decks that started to show you that a tarot was a personal experience and needed to be explored personally. So anyway, beautiful deck. Now, so first deck was the top deck. Second deck was the RWS. Third deck, the Mythic Trove. My fourth deck was also in the box because I haven't had these decks in years, right? And not in my collection for years. Was the Native American Tarot deck. And this is another story deck, but instead of mythology, it actually talks about various incarnations of the Native Americans from all the major regions. So you have Seneca and Seminole to Comanche to the Northwest Indian tribes to just a variety. And it's a pretty deck. And this one I remember reading with as being another storyteller. And yeah, just a beautiful deck. Beautiful deck. Still got the cover cards in here in the middle, sorry. Here's the Fool for this one. And there we go. So this was another one of those decks that when I saw was just like, it blew me away because, these were decks that I remember having when I was first starting my tarot journey in my teens and early 20s. So to see these again after all this time is just incredible. Speaking of first editions and incredible finds, this one, out of all the ones that blew me away emotionally, this one awed me the most. And it is the Morgan Greer Tarot in a first edition box from 1979. And you can kind of tell at one point this was a favorite because cards are in excellent shape for their age, but they have the feel and the energy of having been much used. And I actually recently just put this back in order, but these colors back then, even now, still just pop and bring right to attention to the cards. And it's a Rider-Waite-Smith clone, kind of a close up of it as well. So if the Rider-Waite-Smith kind of gives you this big picture, the Morgan Greer brings it into focus. And the colors are just astounding in this deck. And for those who like the Rider-Waite-Smith symbol, even if you got this a modern deck, a modern Morgan Greer deck, still has the same energy and pop to it with the colors and bringing you into the story of the tarot and the meaning of the cards, and brings it to a much more personal level as it does so. This will definitely be getting a walkthrough at some point in the future this year. And is added into, very much like the last couple I just showed you, into a very special place in my collection. Next deck is actually another first edition. I think almost everything I've shown you or will be showing you from this particular things are all first editions. Was actually on my list to get this next year, and it is the Enchanted Tour. And hopefully I'm pronouncing that name right. This deck, I believe, originated in Europe. Matter of fact, I'll read it here real quick. I believe it was in Germany, if I'm not mistaken. And it's very possible I'm mistaken because, you know, it happens. And I'm not seeing it right off the bat, but this actually covers a lot of different sources. So you've got the Hebrew letters associated with the cards, the astrological signifiers. Even up here, as you can see, you have the Nordic runes that's associated with the card. This is another one that I put back in order. And this will actually be a deck I'll be using fairly soon in the new year. The symbology is just beautiful. If I'm not mistaken, it does follow a Thoth progression by switching out cards 8 and 11. And yeah, the symbology is just beautiful. Look at the rain and the fallen petals or possibly even blood that you see from the Aeon card. And the rain and the ant and the blood being sacrificed and bringing in new rebirth to the new Aeon is how just a quick, that's what I get out of just the symbology just right then and there. And of course the Aeon is actually more of a Thoth card, tarot card versus a Rider-Waite-Smith card. But this is a beautiful, beautiful artistic deck. Excuse me. So this one has found a place on the top shelf already. Let's see. Here was an interesting deck. I had never heard of this deck, and I actually did a little research on it. And it's called the, and I'm going to butcher this name, a Jippy Co Tarot deck. And again, a first edition. This deck originated in the early 70s in Argentina by an occultist there. And then it was edited and produced by a company called Greer down in Argentina. And then Stuart Kaplan of US Games decided to print this deck in 1984 for English audiences. And this is that deck. Now, this deck is odd. Best way to put it. So it presents itself with a lot of Egyptian and ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs and mythology and symbolism. And instead of, there's the major arcana with the full being number 22 instead of 0. And there's no suites, but each card is numbered from 1 to 78. And this is some of the imagery, like from the full, the first one. And there's a lot of things from various planetary sigils, sigils that I don't even know yet, but I will be researching, hieroglyphics and symbols, the colors, Hebrew lettering. There's the astrological sign for the sun, right down there in the corner if you can see it. There you go. Excuse me for getting another drink. I'm talking a lot more than I normally do today. And so each deck is created that way. Each card is created that way, I mean. And again, instead of a suite, it just simply continues on in the numbering system with a keyword, you know. So for card number 33, the Alliance. 37, Arts and Science, etc. So this deck is definitely going to be an interesting study deck later this year. And I'm not particularly drawn to the imagery, but I am drawn to the symbology of why it was chosen for various cards, and therefore becomes quite an interesting study deck, or a study reference deck in my opinion. So that's the Jippy Co Skirmish, and I probably butchered that name, so forgive me. And this is from, I think it was 1984. Yeah, early 80s at best. And let's see what else we got here. This one. Pretty deck. This was also on my list of wanting to check out and explore. And it's called the Enchanted Tour. And these kind of a archaic Renaissance looking artwork, but heightened with more pastel colors and foil style, much like they use for calligraphy and illumination in various texts from the Renaissance and Middle Ages. So this artwork is very reminiscent of that, with some of the little detail work along the edges, kind of doing that. I'm not fully versed in alchemical symbols, but I did see throughout this deck various alchemical symbols within the cards too. So it'll be interesting to explore and see what type of ties to alchemy this has. And the back of the card is just gorgeous. And then along with this deck as well came the book itself. Speaking of book, and this one has full color plates inside, which is just amazing artwork. And this really allows you to kind of dig in and see what's on, because these plates are obviously much larger than the cards themselves. So makes for a good reading experience. Speaking of books, though, forgot the Mythic Trove earlier. Also, the original little hardcover black book that came within it. And I remember my copy literally falling apart when I was young. So I want to be very, very delicate with this so it doesn't fall apart either. And then last but not least, and I gotta admit this is more for a collector's standpoint, for me, is the Osho Zen Tarot. It's a Asian descent card, obviously using some stuff from Zen. Beautiful book. And then, of course, the cards themselves. And the backs are gorgeous on this card. Let's see, how does this go? Yeah, there we go. The backs are just gorgeous on this card. And I need to look through the guidebook because I don't know the type of suites and major and minor arcana that's found in this. It's a pretty deck. I just don't know how to read it yet. It's not within my wheelhouse yet. That said, the key word there being yet. And the cards have titles like, you know, this one, Going with the Flow, or Healing. Completion. And so there's some good symbology and meaning in the cards that just, you know, again, not being in my wheelhouse, I'm not 100% sure on how to read or look at these, but the artwork is so beautiful that I'm sure it's just a matter of time for me to explore it. And that's it. That is what Santa Barb passed on to me for Christmas. And my wife got an equal number, if not more, tarot decks. Everything from the Robin Wood tarot deck to a lot of other classics, and all of them just awesome and great and appreciated. So thank you for joining me for day 1 of the 31 days of tarot. If you liked the video, please hit the like button. If you like my style, which is just kind of a relax and sit back and talk style, please feel free to subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow for day 2 of the 31 days of tarot. Have a great day.